in the heart of the Oklahoma woods, where the tall pines stand like they should. They say there's a legend, a tale of fright, of a massive beast roaming the night.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Welcome everybody. I'm excited to see a full house on a Saturday. So I'm looking forward to learning about Bigfoot and other cryptids with you. We're happy to have the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization here today. I do want to say a brief thank you. You are sitting in brand new chairs today because we got a grant from the American Library Association to make our library more accessible. So I hope to see you at more programs in the future because we have awesome new seats.
All right.
Yeah. But back to today's presenters, we have Terrell here. He's an educator, experienced outdoorsman with roots in Northwest Oklahoma. He has spent years investigating Bigfoot and other activities in Northwest Oklahoma. And Evans Bailey, recently he retired from a long career in natural resources and environmental management with five government agencies. He has been interested in Bigfoot since he grew up in Southeast Oklahoma. So welcome and thank you for coming to Woodward today.
Thank you. All right. You want me to jump in?
Go right.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, welcome. Wow, this is great. Great turnout. We appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon, especially with all the good football that's on today, to come in. But we're excited to be here and excited to tell you about what we're doing. Brian and I are volunteers with a couple of different organizations. Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization is a statewide organization of volunteers. And then we have affiliate groups that are under the NOBRO umbrella that are doing research around the state. And the one that I'm involved with is called the North Canadian River Project, that's kind of centered around the El Reno, Yukon, where the river runs through that area down to Stinchcomb Refuge in Oklahoma City. And then Brian has an organization called the Red Dirt Cryptids Investigations out of Enid. So, and our two organizations are also members of what we call NOBRO for short, because it is a statewide organization. We're trying to promote cooperation among the different research organizations, so we can kind of all share info and a network across the state and help each other out. So that's kind of how it's organized. NOBRO kind of got started from the Honubby conference, the conference at Honubby, Oklahoma, down in far southeast Oklahoma, like between Tallahena and Broken Bow. And there was three tribal members that were part of the Honubby conference organization, and they decided to get together and start an organization called NOBRO, basically to bring the tribal perspective. They wanted to make sure, since they were from, their backgrounds were Cherokee, Choctaw, and Muskogee Creek, that the native perspective to all this discussion was included, because the native tribes have dealt with these creatures and have teachings, traditions, and stories about these creatures for hundreds of years. So that's kind of how it got organized and started. Of course, like I said, Brian and I are just volunteers, and in our organization, we're all volunteers. You don't have to be a tribal member, but I grew up in southeast Oklahoma and right in the heart of Choctaw country, and so familiar with the Choctaw tribe, and so there's some familiarization there, and so that's how I was interested in having friends that were natives and listening just to their fascinating things about what their tribes believe about these creatures and teach, and their traditions and all that. Then that's how I got involved in it. I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, and I'd always heard stories since I was a kid from family and friends, and there was even stories in the local McAllister newspaper about when people would see these creatures and describe them, and that was about the time in the early to mid 70s when the Boggy Creek monster over at Falk, Arkansas was in the newspaper a lot, sightings of that. Momo, the Missouri monster in southwest Missouri. A lot of reports of Momo. And so those were coming out in the papers and people talking about it. So I thought that was fascinating. And then, y'all remember Scholastic book fairs where you'd order the little paperbacks? I would find the ones about monsters and all that, and I would order those and just read those. And so that's kind of how I got interested in it. But later on, when Finding Bigfoot came out, I started watching the show, got kind of excited about it again, and then Finding Bigfoot came to the Oklahoma City area and had their big town hall meeting at Express Ranch out at Yukon in the big barn. And my daughter and I went out there and were able to get there early and get some seats and just fascinated by the stories that were being told of encounters around central Oklahoma, all over Oklahoma. So that's when I got excited about it and started going to the Honubby conference and then just got involved from there. But anyway, so what I wanted to show you was our website here for NOBO, because it kind of gives you an idea of what we do. We kind of have some different areas of emphasis. We take reports. In fact, I have some report forms here. If anybody would like to take one of those and fill it out, or fill it out while you're here. If you've had an experience or encounter, we keep a database. I'll show you that in a little bit, and try to collect as many reports as we can. We're trying to gather as much, one of our functions is to try to gather as much evidence as we can to present to academic researchers, to get them interested, to show them that there are all these eyewitness encounters. There is evidence like footprints, hair, scat, things like that, to try to get some true scientific academic research going. We try to do the best we can, but we're not professional researchers, but we're trying to get the interest of the academic community to take it seriously if we can present enough good evidence. So that is, let me show you we are divided up into different districts in Oklahoma, and there are some volunteer investigators like Brian and myself located in each of these districts. And so if you contact us through the website, through email or phone, then an investigator will get with you and take down your encounter story. And if there's an opportunity to come out and do a field investigation, we'll do that. Brian is the investigator for Northwest Oklahoma, and he even goes up into Kansas, and then I handle Central and Southwest, and so that's kind of how we're organized. Let me show you our sightings map. So these are what we call Class A. Class A, Class B, and Class C are different types of encounters. Class A is when someone actually has seen something, and so these are represented by the Bigfoot prints. These are the ones that have been reported to us. So you can see they're scattered mostly in eastern Oklahoma, as you would imagine, with the thicker forest. It seems to be usually centered around some type of waterways. Of course, like all creatures that live in the woods or live in the wild, they've got to have good habitat, and including water supply. So a lot of these sightings come from around water supply areas, rivers, lakes, streams, that sort of thing. Then we also keep our own database. Every time somebody contacts us and we go through a report form with them, or they submit a written report, or we take a statement over the phone, or we do a field investigation, then it's reported and put into our database. This is one from Northwest Oklahoma, from around Canton Lake. And so I think we've got about 150 something total reports that we have taken. Of course, there are other databases, and there's the BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researchers, that did the Finding Bigfoot show, Gulf Coast Bigfoot Researchers, the NAWAC organization down in Texas. So there's a lot of different scattered databases Brian actually keeps a database of sightings reported to them. Now, as he'll tell you, his includes more than just Bigfoot. They take Bigfoot reports, but he's going to tell you about, actually there's other stuff out there that people have reported, and Red Dirt Cryptids handles those. So here you can see what a report looks like in our database. We talk about where it was located, what part of the state, county, and then the investigators' follow-up report. So you can go in and read all of these different encounters. In the database here, if you go over to like this one, and you go to these little blue arrows, click that, it will bring the report up where it's much easier to read. So we'd like for you to explore the yeah.
Those are for the public.
Yeah, this is our public-facing database. We have a volunteer, Ryan White. He's also known as the Squatch Ranger on YouTube.
He's from Alva.
Yeah, from Alva.
He's a gold bug, but we don't hold that against
He teaches over in Northeast Oklahoma now, but well, yeah, he takes care of our database and our website and those kind of things. So, also on the sightings map, if you'll like pick one out, click on the foot, it brings up the report so that you can look at that. So it's very user-friendly and just some fascinating report encounters. So you can contact us. Our email addresses are listed there. If you've got a story you want to share with us, an encounter, that would be fantastic. We love to listen to those and talk to you about it. And that brings up something. We try to be a safe place for someone to tell us about what happened, because a lot of times they may have, something's happened, they've seen something, or some type of experience, encounter. They may tell a family member or a friend and they get made fun of. So then what happens?
Shut up.
Yep, we just shut down. But we try to be a safe space where they can call. All of our investigators have had their own experiences, so we understand, and we're happy to listen and happy to go through it with you. And because some people, most people are not out there looking for Bigfoot. We're crazy enough to, but it's just something, just an encounter that happens. They're driving down the highway, they're out hunting, they're out fishing, camping, hiking, and all of a sudden, there it is. Something that they've been told is a joke, it's not real, doesn't exist, and there it is. And so for some people, even people that we've talked to and interviewed, it's a traumatic experience. Some people even have PTSD from it, and have some they need somebody to talk to about what they've seen, what they've heard, that sort of thing. So we try to be that safe spot where they have somebody a friendly voice they can talk to that understands and is willing to listen and help them work through that experience. Anyway, that's one of our main functions. We also do our own research. We go out on weekends, holidays, whenever we have free time. Where we have time off from work, we're volunteers, and we look for evidence on our own. And we have an evidence heading here on the website, and we have some of the evidence here on the tables, drawings. A lot of the eyewitnesses are very kind, and they'll will say, "Could you sketch what you saw?" Yeah, and if you look through the database and pull up some of those reports down at the bottom, you'll see the sketches that they made of what they saw, and it's fascinating. So that helps us out. But we're looking for things like tracks and footprints. The really cool thing now, these days, is with all these new apps we have on these fancy phones, is they have a 3D scanning app that you can put on your phone, and it will actually scan. You can scan the footprint from different angles, and then it makes a 3D. So in some instances, we don't even have to do plaster casts anymore, because the 3D program can do such a great job of scanning the footprint. And there's in the app, there are applications where you can actually, it will measure the print for you, the width, the depth, the length, and all that. So, pretty fancy. But yeah, footprints is always fantastic. Here you can see some footprints that we found. Two of our members were called to the Chandler Park in Tulsa, which is right on the Arkansas River. The naturalist, what's interesting is the naturalist there at the park, and this was in the winter, actually found the footprint on, she was going to do a trail hike, lead a trail hike, and she was going to pre-scout the trail so she'd know what to point out to the visitors. And there was this huge footprint in the middle of the trail, or actually it was going across the trail instead of down the trail. It was going across the trail, and she actually got on the internet and found us and reported. She wanted to report it, and so a couple of our guys, investigators, Ryan and Jim, went out and fortunately the track or the footprint was still there, and they were able to cast it. So things like that. Some of the other evidence we look for is with the FLIR, forward-looking infrared, which is a thermal and seeks out body heat. This is a FLIR image here up here on the table of something watching from the riverbank. So we try to gather evidence like that.
As a general rule, if it's a cow and it's blurry with FLIR, it'll be, horizontal object. But when you've got an object that's tall and skinny, like even if it's really, really, really blurry, you can tell if it's humanoid because it'll be vertical, standing upright.
Right, and Brian has a FLIR unit here to demonstrate, and you'll notice when you look at people through a FLIR, there's warm spots and cold spots because of our clothes. So if you're looking at something in the woods and it's solid, usually the color will be, you'll have it set for white is hot. So something giving off body heat will show up white. And it's solid white, that means it's not wearing clothes.
Not wearing clothes.
And
if they're a hoaxer, they're dedicated.
yeah.
Especially in the wintertime.
That was recorded at Hayburn Lake up between Tulsa and Bristow. And there's some other audio there that we collected from Hayburn Lake. And this was down at Honubby, on Honubby Creek. We set the recorder out and we got some whoops. I sent this to some folks in Tennessee. Anyway, and they said it could not be matched to any bird noise that they knew of. Well, whoops, sorry.
You don't have to send it to Tennessee anymore. They've got apps on your phone that you can run an audio recording through. If you think it could possibly be a bird, it'll identify what kind of bird, and if it comes back as no known species, you might have something.
Yeah. So when we're out in the woods, we do our own research weekends and things like that. We're just looking for things that look kind of out of place in the woods, tree twists, structures, odd tree bows. And we try to figure out, okay, could this be storm damage, from the ice storms? Could it be tornado damage? Could it be, we try to rule out everything else or explain it some other way. But sometimes it's just too weird. This is a tree bow there in Stinchcomb. And what you can't see, that's me standing beneath it. But what you can't see, it was pouring down rain that day, is the top of the tree has been tied down over here with greenbrier vines, the green ones with the thorns on it. It's been tied down to another tree. But, we were talking about trying to identify what the audio vocals mean. It's, we try to figure out what do these stick structures mean. Like here's an X, and we found lots of X's. In some instances, you can tell that, the trees might have just fallen that way. Other times, you can tell that they're placed. They look like they're placed there, and you know, to us, to humans, what would an X look like? Yeah, keep out, stop. You know, maybe that's what it means to them, or maybe it's just a territorial marker. Maybe it means this area is already claimed by another family clan or something like that. We don't know, but we just look for odd things like that. Now, somebody asked a minute ago about DNA evidence, and Brian was covering that, but our group has found some things that we think would be great for harvesting some DNA, and so I contacted in fact, in Oklahoma City, there's one of the world-renowned DNA centers called DNA, not DNA Systems.
I have no idea.
Anyway, I called them and I asked them, I didn't tell them, hey, I got a Bigfoot sample. I said, I have a wildlife sample that I'd like to run. How much would it cost for me to submit the sample and have it determined, you know, what species it is or what and they said $3,000. So, I mean, that just knocks out a lot of amateur groups trying to. There was a college in Canada that was using their university lab to do a lot of DNA analysis for much reasonable prices. It was a few $100s versus thousands of dollars. And then now there's an effort through North Carolina State universities. They are beginning to, you know, a lot of up-and-coming scientists are beginning to kind of take this seriously and wanting to do some serious research, whether to debunk everything or prove everything, but just finally settle the question. And so there's a researcher at North Carolina State University, is that right? North Carolina State, Darby Orcutt, who is gathering right now for 1 year. He will gather, if you want to submit samples to him, and there's a group, Southern Bigfoot Alliance here in Oklahoma, has submitted some samples to that research project. Then they will process those, and it's going to take them probably a year or two to do all the samples, and then they'll have to write up all the reports and all that. But so that DNA study is coming, and it should hold some scientific legitimacy coming from an accredited university. So that should be real interesting. But DNA analysis is really expensive and not something just the average person can do on their own. One of the things I talked about was the tribal perspective, and we've included on our page here the tribal traditions from major tribes and tribes that would allow us to, you know, present what their particular tribe. Now, maybe not every single tribe member of that tribe, but the general held traditions of each tribe about these creatures. And actually, some of the tribes have more than one name and have, depending on what type of creature you're encountering. The Choctaws, for example, I know have, they call them Hatakchito, the tall people, or Oklachito. Yeah, Oklachito. And then those are, Hatakchito and Oklachito are the, like the ones that you find, the family groups, a family clan, the gentle forest giants, that sort of thing. But then they also have a name for one they call Champé. And Champé could be one that you run into that's aggressive. And I think over the years that we've been doing this, we've kind of figured that it seems to be they're either in a family group, or there are rogue males or young males that get pushed out at a certain time. Like most wild creatures, young males get pushed out at a certain time to go start your own, you know. Go start your own family. You know, you're too big now to hang around with us. And there's usually an alpha male that kind of runs the clan, and you know there's competition among males, and he pushes the younger males out to go start their own. So and it could be depending on the type of experiences that these creatures have had with humans and others, you know, if they've been shot at, if you know, that sort of thing, then they could be more aggressive, or if they've been shot, period, they could be a little more in a bad temper. So they may not look at humans quite so friendly. So, you know, depends on, so they have different names for the ones. Some tribes consider them the big brother of the forest. They all consider them a type of people. They call them the ancient ones, the ones that came before, things like that. So they all have different names for them. But it's amazing that all North American, Central, and South American tribes have names for these creatures and have stories, traditions that they teach about them.
Is the story on most of these about the stench and smell? All of them?
That's a good question.
Are they all pretty well?
That's a good question. You know, when we take encounter reports, sometimes people will mention the odor, but not always. And sometimes we'll ask them, you know, using your senses, you know, you told me what you saw, what you heard. Was there anything else? Did you smell anything? Do you remember a smell or anything like that? And they'll say, no. But then some people will lead off with that. Well, first I heard, you know, this odd, god-awful smell. And then I heard something rustling, and then but it's not always mentioned. I don't know. Maybe the smell is a hormone that's released when they're nervous or upset or angry or whatever, you know. But it's not always in every encounter. No. The Seminole have a name for these creatures, Ewashikachi Nati, and that means the one who makes you forget. And I thought that was cool because when I first heard that, because we have had people report missing time. In fact, we had a good friend of ours that was leading a hike in an area that he'd led hikes in for years, and he said, "I don't know what happened. I got disoriented. I got turned around." He said, "We wandered around for 2 hours trying to find our way out." And then they'll report other physical symptoms. Sometimes we call it getting zapped. They think maybe that's by the use of infrasound from these creatures. Low-level frequency growls or rumbles, which is common in elephants, tigers, other creatures. And it disorients your hearing and your vision, and actually makes some people nauseated and sick. So I know one time when we were out in the Kaimishis, I was wearing headphones and had a parabolic mic, and I was listening, and man, all of a sudden something hit that parabolic mic like an explosion in the headphones, and then I just got this overwhelming feeling of dread that, man, we need to get out of here. Something bad is going to happen. And it just followed me the whole rest of the... So, I don't know, I think maybe the parabolic mic actually amplified that. And we had a lot of activity that night. So, anyway, so you can read there of the different tribal traditions, and we had some of them actually submit some art, drawings of the Creek people call it Istichupko, and the Creek tribe, if you go on the Muskogee Creek tribe website, they actually have some interviews with elders of the Creek tribe about Istichupko and the activity that's going on around Hanna, Oklahoma, over on the South Canadian River, activity that goes on today. So it's very, very interesting. Chickasaws call them Lofa, and they don't talk about Lofa. Their tribe has not had very positive experiences with the Lofa, and so they believe that if they talk about Lofa, that Lofa will visit their family and something bad will happen. So it's very taboo to talk about Lofa. My dad was a history writer for the Chickasaws, and whenever we were talking about our interest in Bigfoot and all that, when he mentioned it to some of them, they don't want to talk about it. They just do not talk about it. So It's very interesting. So that gives you some of that information from the tribes there. So anyway, I hope you'll get a chance to go to our website and check it out and get some information there and learn how to make a report if you've got a report to make. If you'd like to fill out one of the report forms, be happy to I'll be here afterwards and be happy to hear your encounter and to go through. And if you'd like to make a report to go in the official database, you can do that anonymously, or you can put your name on it, whatever you want to do. We're very understanding about that. But I want to make sure Brian has plenty of time. So if you have any questions, yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to the orbs or lights that are often associated with sightings?
That's a great question. Yeah, that we do have people report that they saw the orbs, and then a few minutes later, there's a Bigfoot.
What's the thinking on that?
I have no idea.
No.
All that my native friends will tell me is don't follow the orbs. Don't follow them.
Don't follow them
if
in
they
the woods.
if they try to, in fact, well, that same night that happened to me on Baktuklo Mountain, south of Honabi, we were out there all night. But my brother and I, we were all assigned different areas to watch, and the road that we came in was just one of those logging roads. And my brother and I saw, a few hundred yards away, we saw two small lights just bouncing. And we turned and told our leader, somebody's coming. And he said, where? And we said, right down there, those two lights. And we watched it, and we thought, well, it's flashlights. Somebody's walking down. Well, the flashlights don't follow the road. And we were up on this ridge, and there was a creek bottom here, creek bottom here. All the activity was coming from this creek bottom over here. So we continue to watch the lights, and they get bigger, but they're going through the woods. And they're getting bigger and bigger, and they float by. They float right down the creek bottom below us, and they're about the size of a volleyball, about that big, a bright, solid white, and they just keep going down the creek. And I don't know what it was, but I mean, it was good sized and bright. But our guide was Choctaw, and he said, we're not going to follow the lights. Don't touch them. Don't try to interact with them. Of course, to the Choctaws, those are the lanterns of the little people. The little people come out at night. They go through the woods gathering up medicinal herbs, and gathering food and things like that. So you don't disturb the little people. And so that was his explanation for it. And I don't know. I mean, it was so dark that, you could see the light, but I couldn't see anything else around it or under it or anything like that. But they're just floating. So I don't know. Then that's part of some of the stuff that Brian's going to talk about, is the other stuff that where you just shake your head and say, I don't know. I don't know what that was.
We were just supposed to keep it on Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, whatever you want to talk about. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Careful.
Could they have been fireflies? The Bigfoots were attracted to fireflies?
We were seeing fireflies that night, but they were more yellowish and, the little bitty flash. This was a ball of light. And somebody said, could have been ball lightning. Well, it was a beautiful, clear night. Stars and everything. I don't know. I don't know what that was. Just if you spend enough time out in the woods, that's why I pay attention to a lot of the things that my Native American friends say, because their tribes lived out in the woods 24/7. They saw a lot of stuff that, if you spend enough time out there hunting or whatever at night and things like that, a lot of coon hunters have stories of things they've seen that, what was that? I don't know. But anyway, okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you play the audio of the woodknock?
Of the woodknock. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I had a friend of mine that was a big deer hunter. He said, well, I've never seen anything. I hunted deer. And I said, then one day I was talking to him about something about woodknocks. He said, woodknock? What are you talking about, a woodknock? And I said, well, just, you're out in the woods and you hear like a single knock or sometimes two knocks or something like that. He goes, well, yeah, I've heard that a lot of times. I'll be sitting in my tree stand and I'll hear, And he said, I think it's just somebody out there chopping wood. I said, well, if they were chopping wood, why was there only one knock? You know, and who knows what that means? That could be a signal that could be, you know, I'm here, I'm over here, where the way they keep track of each other. Where was that wood knock?
It was up there.
Oh, yeah, okay. And there's even debate as to whether they actually hit wood on wood, or they may make that sound with their mouth. They may make the sound by going something like that. They may take their you know, from descriptions we've had, they're so large they could just use their hand and hit a tree trunk, and it actually.
Maybe they're spanking the bratty kids. It only takes once with them.
Yeah.
Tree knocks kind of come in a lot of different. Some of them are real sharp. My favorite's the rock clacking.
Yeah.
You'll hear that a lot too, but I think a lot of people overlook that.
Yeah, in an area where there's lots of rocks, you'll hear more rock clacking than tree knocks. Yes, sir.
I was wondering if I could see, like, I didn't get a good look at the pictures of how they described, like the tribes of how they described what they looked like.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what those looked like.
One of them kind of looks like a rat.
Now, some of these are just artist illustrations, and then some are like that looks more like maybe an ogre or something, but that was to illustrate the Champé, which the Choctaw consider, you know, more, yeah.
Googly type.
This was a drawing that one of the friends made about Lofa from the Chickasaw tribe.
That looks almost human.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, we get all different kinds of reports to where it looked human or that it looked more primate. Now, the DNA study that Melba Ketchum did down in Texas, her results were that the mitochondrial DNA, the maternal DNA was, the mother was human, and the mitochondrial DNA, I've got that backwards. The mitochondrial, which is the female DNA, was human. The nuclear DNA, which was male, was unknown. So at some point, she believed that, at least from the samples she had, that there was interbreeding between a pure line of Sasquatch and humans. Is this the drawings you were thinking of?
I was wondering how the tribes describe them. Like those pictures
They
up
describe them as, some of them even call them Big Brother or another people. They consider them a tribe. They consider these creatures a tribe of people, old people, or not old in age, but ancient. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Sometimes they call them the first ones, the ones that came before, the old ones.
I saw one of those, and it said like evil god of the forest.
Yeah, it depends on the interactions that each particular tribe has had with the creatures, as to whether it's more of a positive story or a negative story, or how they look at the, like we said with the Chickasaw, the reactions have mostly been negatives. They don't talk about it. So, but the Choctaws seem to think their version is that it's kind of the guardian of the forest and that sort of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but each different tribe is different.
Evans.
Where? Here? Uh-huh.
Do you have any recordings of the more low guttural roar
I don't know that we do. All of ours were.
that's really scary?
Yeah. I don't think.
Scary.
I don't think we've experienced any of the growls or anything.
No.
Ours has mostly been vocals back in the woods, the howls.
Weird vocals that sound like vowels and stuff.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about, and there's a lot of audio recordings of that kind of stuff floating around on the internet.
Well, we were close enough, it was loud enough to make your chest vibrate like a, when you
Yeah.
stand close to a speaker.
Where was that at?
South of town here many years ago.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
I mean, yeah, we've definitely had reports of stuff like that.
Is there anybody in this room that's actually seen one around here? No?
I haven't seen one around here.
Okay,
We get
that's
reports.
good.
Hmm.
You got reports, okay.
Yeah, we've had some reports from out around Fort Supply Lake.
The only person I know of that's around here that's seen one would be in the 80s, they had one by side, and the kid saw one going around the cedar tree.
Hmm.
That's the only, he was the only person at that time that saw one on that.
Fantastic.
I think the Bigfoot hunters you talked about actually went out to Visay.
Ah. Okay. Jim?
Jim probably knows a lot more.
Yeah,
about that.
actually, I've got some sighting reports from this area. Most recently, about 2016, and most of them were centered on the Riverway over by Fort Supply.
Okay, yeah, we've heard of reports over around Wolf Creek
Mm-hmm.
and Fort Supply. Yeah.
But
The
there's
lake.
also some historical stuff that happened back in this region in the early 20th century, down near Bay.
Okay.
In that area, Thomas, there's actually a road that's been nicknamed Bigfoot Road because of all the sightings that happened there
Wow.
in the 60s.
All right. Okay.
As far as I've how many years that organization's been out there, has anybody defined the vocalization of exactly what they mean
Oh.
as far as communication? So we can communicate back to them? If they mimic, that's been shown multiple times.
No, I think we're still pretty ignorant on that.
I think
So
there's
is there a program, or does somebody know, or how would you,
Not that I know
how
of.
would you even go about doing it?
Since
If
we
you got the baseline, you got the vocalization, so you have the baseline,
right.
and you got the wood knocks that they communicate back with the house or wood knock back and forth, that's,
Well, there is that former military linguist, a friend of Ron Moorhead's. He
Yeah.
claims to have studied those Moorhead recordings, and so this guy was.
They don't know what they mean, though.
Yeah, no. Well, he claims that it's a language.
Yeah.
He thinks he's.
Almost all languages have certain similarities in
Yeah.
situations, but they don't really know for sure. But I've been told that there's a group up in Canada that is taking, and they're recording different types of vocalizations, and they're documenting different scenarios, and they're trying to piece together this stuff, but they are a long ways away.
but it's getting started though, right?
That's what I was told.
Probably an amateur effort. I mean,
That's
because
what you
because there's
always
because
are,
there's no
amateurs, those-
right because there's no serious academic, other than maybe
Academia is not even gonna touch this.
Meldrum.
For the most part,
There's
yeah.
really not much serious academic full-time effort going on, so it's all volunteers and amateurs and non-professionals just doing the best they can. And
There's
so
no money in it.
yeah.
Nobody's gonna pay these people. That's their job,
Right.
and so unless somebody comes out, there was the Melba Ketchum deal, and then there was the Erickson project.
Right.
The only reason that those two projects went as far as they did is because somebody was funding them. That's really what it boils down to. It's just like everything else in life. If you want to pay for amateur amateur work, you're gonna get amateur results.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious,
Yeah. No, it's a good question, but I think there are people who are working on that, but I think they're a long ways away from.
at least it started for that.
Right.
Yeah. For instance, that thing that I had happen to me down by Broken Bow Lake, where they were making those mouth pop noises. I was told that those people believe that the mouth pop noises mean it's time to leave.
Agitation. Yeah, there are some similar. There have been some efforts to compare the vocalizations with like modern primates, gorillas and things like that. And so they do the similar type things, the teeth chattering, the mouth pops, that are kind of a sign of,
The roots and.
yeah, kind of signs of that they're agitated. So, okay, thank you.
And to be honest, since the problem spread across the entire United States, chances are if they did.
The old folks say he's been around way before this little town. They claim they've seen those glowing eyes beneath the moon in the inky